of scale into the US. It's also an event space where we work with companies like Digital Irish. So if we can help anybody in the Irish American community, please contact myself or Catherine Slattery there. With that, I'll pass you over to Feargall to kick off the night.
Perfect. All right. So evening, everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Feargall Kenny. I run the Digital Irish. I'm the original founder of the Digital Irish group. If you're unfamiliar with the group, we exist for a couple of reasons. The first of which is to...
Can't see Feargall.
Oh, okay, hang on. Is it on?
That's because you're sitting in the back. You should come up here.
Dave, thank you, Dave. So there's two reasons really why the group exists. Number one, we aim to help Irish startups break into the States, and we try and make connections for them. And secondly, we try and highlight interesting people and topics within the tech community. Case in point, Harry right here, who we're going to talk to shortly. So, if just to give you a few stats on the group, we've got about 3,000 members. So far to date, we've been around about 6-7 years. We've had about 150 Irish startups pitch at the events, and we've had speakers from a whole variety of different places. Most recently, Oisin from Handy, who we spoke to in January. So this is the board. We've got a couple of board members here. A couple of them are traveling. Daphne, Tony, maybe raise your hands. Anyone else? Who else am I missing? Rachel is around somewhere as well. Okay. So this space is brought to us courtesy of Bank of Ireland. So and Catherine Slattery, who's over there, is just phenomenal in helping us organise these events. So thanks for your help, Catherine. And I think we are sort of like so we're sponsorship based as a group. Our key sponsors are White & Williams, who's a law firm. I don't think Nicole and Tom were able to make it tonight. Fiona McAtee from McAtee Law Group, who are immigration lawyers. They're quite busy with H-1B season at the moment. If you have ICE knocking on your door, she's a good resource to go to. And then finally, we've got the Department of Foreign Affairs. So I think Emer Friel from the Department of Foreign Affairs is here, the Deputy Consul General. So Emer, do you want to just say a word? You've had a busy time last week, I think.
Busy time last week, and I couldn't get up this morning without putting something green on. Just to say that we're always delighted. I mean, Feargall and all the guys at Digital Irish, they're fantastic partners for us as well. What we do in the consulate, trying to keep building strong links between Ireland and the US in all spheres, is made a lot easier by having really good partners like Digital Irish. Since you're throwing out stats, my favourite stat at the moment is that Ireland is the 9th largest investor in the US, with 100,000 employees across all sectors, which is pretty cool when we're just basically all outpost on the edge of Europe, as our forefathers called it back in 1919. So, and that's in no small part to the work that Digital Irish do. So I'm really glad to come to these events. I really enjoy them from a personal perspective, and I'm really looking to hearing from Harry as well. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, Emer. And just to talk about two initiatives that we have, that are ongoing initiatives. Just a reminder, we do have an angel group as well. We sort of had a kickoff event a couple of weeks back in the same space for an angel group. So if you're interested in angel investing, obviously that's for accredited investors only. And come talk to me. And if you're a J1 student, or J1 grad student is looking for work, or if you happen to want to employ one, get in touch with Gavin at Digital Irish, and we'll try and make the connections for you. Okay. So the format tonight, I'm going to have a chat with Harry. I'm going to introduce Harry in a second. But then we're going to do two pitches, one of which is Teamwork. So Teamwork is a collaboration play out of Cork in Ireland. They're doing this via Zoom, so that's the technology that we're going to use to connect them, which is consistent. We've always used Zoom for our remote pitches. But we're going to have folk from Teamwork talk to us after we talk to Harry, and then we've got Maeve from Cloud KPI as well, who's going to talk live in the room. Okay, so that's the format. So I'm just going to give just a tiny overview on Harry, because I don't want to go into too much detail so that he doesn't get it too wrong, right? But Harry's the CIO of Zoom. He was previously the CIO of KPMG. He went into retirement and left retirement very quickly afterwards to join Zoom. And before that was CIO of Blackstone. And before that again, senior technology leadership roles at both UBS and Credit Suisse. Did I get that right?
That would be correct.
All right, and two other accolades that are worth
And I did
mentioning.
a startup before that, actually.
Okay, all right. Well, you can expand on that when we talk. And then two other things I was going to mention. You're in the CIO magazine Hall of Fame, and I think Computerworld has you as top 100 CIOs. So,
And I was Irish American. Sorry, Irish American. Is on. I can't turn it on. Is it on? Yeah.
Yes.
It's gone on and off button. Even I can handle that. And I recognize as Irish America one of 50 on Wall Street. I think that was 2012. Yes.
Okay, got it. All right. So, I'll sit down and join you here. So thanks for joining us. Right. So I've got a couple of questions lined up for you, and we want to cover a few things. But firstly, rather than doing things in we're going to start with Zoom. So, do you mind just telling to the group here who are unfamiliar with Zoom, maybe you can tell them a little bit about the company.
You think they're unfamiliar with Zoom? Let's find out. How many people know Zoom? Okay. All right. So,
Just tell us broadly about what you do. Tell us a little bit about the UC space.
Sure. So I actually did. I had a presentation to a large technology company in the middle of last year. I think it was like July of last year. Not naming the company. They're not a Zoom shop. They're a very large technology company, but they're not a Zoom shop. They're a WebEx shop. And so this is what happened. So I'm in a room with like 100 very senior people who are all client facing. And I did exactly the same thing. It's like, sort of, who's heard of Zoom? All the hands go up. Who uses Zoom? Out of everybody in the room, every hand in the room went up with the exception of one. So I say, it's like, so I know you guys don't license Zoom. So how are you all using Zoom? So they said, well, we know that the company provides us with WebEx, but when you're client facing, the stuff really has to work all the time. So, and it doesn't. So we license Zoom because it just works. And then I asked the question, so how are you getting reimbursed? No, for $180 a year, we're just paying for it ourselves so we can work with our clients. So I thought that was really interesting. Anyway, went through the whole sort of 45 minutes, and then afterwards at the reception, I went up to this one individual, and I go, so tell me, why aren't you using Zoom? He said, I just started. So I guess that's a funny story about sort of asking that question. So Zoom. So just anybody know the background story? You want me to go through the background and sort of give the okay. So as we say, the spiel.
Sure.
So I feel like I'm amongst friends here. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good.
Off the record.
Well, I'm not saying anything off the record. That's not happening. I did that a couple of times in my life and got into trouble for not doing that. Eric Yuan is our CEO and founder. And Eric was the number 8 programmer at WebEx in 1997. As everybody knows, WebEx went public in 2000. It got acquired by Cisco in 2007. And then in 2011, Eric was running all of the collaboration space. He went to John Chambers, CEO of Cisco, and said, look, I built WebEx from the ground up, and it's like I know all of the great things about it. I know all of its warts. It's now sort of 14 years old. The technology landscape has changed dramatically, and WebEx was principally built, and I'm sure a number of us in this room remember that. WebEx was principally built as a content sharing platform to augment the conference calls that everybody is on. Then they went along and added voice, and they added video, and then they did some acquisitions, so you can imagine what the code base began to look like. And then the technology advances and capabilities that we've had sort of over that period of time sort of moved dramatically too. So Eric went to John and said, look, I built this whole platform. I know what we got right and I know what we got wrong. So I think it's time to rebuild the platform. So let's take a white sheet of paper, start from scratch, video first. Paper said, $1.2 billion of revenue, no real competition, we're going to keep going. Eric quit. Eric founded Zoom. Took 2 years to build the first release of Zoom. So we essentially, we were founded in 2011. We've been in the market for 6 years now. So version 1 came out about the summer of 2013. And we have, over 1,000 employees globally. We're doing over 60, 70 billion meeting minutes a year. We have a net promoter score of 72, which is kind of unheard of. I think sort of WebEx is down in the teens somewhere. Yeah, so it's a pretty cool platform. When you look at the industry, what the industry says about us, everybody looks at the Gartner Magic Quadrant in tech, right? Everybody goes there. It's kind of like our Bible, right? Go to the Magic Quadrant, you'll see where Zoom is. Zoom is up in the top right. We're slightly ahead of Microsoft and slightly behind Cisco, principally because of Cisco's very large install base. When you look at things like G2 Crowd as an example, another one of those industry analysts, they talk about satisfaction and momentum. And if you look at Zoom, our satisfaction rating is 100 over 100. It's like you can't get better, right? Momentum is 90 over 100. So we're kind of like up in the top right-hand quadrant, and then you've got everybody else down here. Glassdoor, rated us number 2 best companies to work for on the planet. You've got Frost & Sullivan, who rated us as the global video conferencing platform of the year for 2019. You've got Forbes 100 named us the number 3 cloud provider in the world. The top 10 are all Zoom clients. We've got huge names. We've got sort of the best way I can describe what the Zoom platform is that we do 1 to 1 and 1 to a million and quote everything in between. So, Feargall, you and I can do a Zoom call. We can have a Zoom meeting with everybody in this room. We can have a Zoom meeting with 1,000 people with, sort of gallery view of 49 people on a panel, 20 panels. Yeah. We can do a webinar with up to 30,000 people and content sharing. And we can do a webcast for over 1 million people. Oh, and by the way, you can do it on any device. You can do it on your iOS, your Android, your MacBook, your Windows machine, your Linux machine. You can do it with VDI. You can do it with web. I love telling the story of I don't know if anybody watched I did an interview yesterday that was recorded at Enterprise Connect. Anybody see that? You saw it? Well, I don't know, if all the hands shut up, I wouldn't tell them again. But if you Google Harry Mosely Enterprise Connect, it'll come up on YouTube. But one of the stories I love telling, I was called a little bit late, a little bit time challenged because, as my colleagues know, Rich is back here in the room. My colleagues know is I kind of jam my calendar from about 7:30 in the morning till I collapse or pass out. And so I got caught at O'Hare Airport and hadn't got to the airport in time, so I hadn't got through security and I hadn't got to the lounge. So I was literally sort of just jumped out the Uber and was before security. And I had to do this client call for a prospect in Boston. I get on the call with the team in Boston, and on my phone, I put up my virtual background with their company logo. I'm running on the O'Hare, Chicago O'Hare free Wi-Fi network, and I start sharing the content off of my phone. We literally get 18 minutes into this call, and I can see the room full of people at the other end. And this person who was leading the call from the other end says, "Stop. I've had enough." And so I never had anybody say that to me on a call before. Well, maybe a family member. But never had a client or a prospective client say anything like that to me before, so I didn't know what was coming next. This is exactly what happened. Because, so let me sort of replay what I think I heard, which is, you're on your phone, in O'Hare, on a free Wi-Fi network, virtual background with our logo, sharing content, and I'm not missing a beat. I said, yeah, that's what I'm doing. He goes, we have really high-end equipment in our offices. Really, we've spent sort of many hundreds of thousands of dollars on putting equipment into our offices, and we can't do what you are doing right now. So I've heard enough. Guys, we don't have to analyze anymore. We're going to do a proof of concept, and we're starting on Monday. So this stuff just really works. it's very cool, and so Eric has built an amazing company. We're very flat, very open, and it's dramatically different to working at KPMG, Blackstone, UBS, Credit Suisse, which are all great. Bless you. They were all great, but working at Zoom is, I think the best way to describe it is it's kind of like fun.
Okay, cool. So, can you tell us a little bit about maybe where the unified communications space is going, just in general?
Yeah, so it's literally I came from Enterprise Connect, which I don't know if anybody knows what Enterprise Connect is, but it's the biggest event of the year, and every collaboration, video conferencing company in the world is there. Some that don't even belong there turn up just because other people are there. It's kind of like it's really interesting. A lot of players. It's pretty crowded right now. You've got obviously ourselves. You've got Ring Central. You've got Blue Jeans. You've got GoToMeeting. You've got obviously WebEx. You've got 8x8. It's kind of like so. There's a lot of players. It's a very crowded space. I think so what's the objective? I think you always have to think about these things, like what's the objective? What is it all about, right? And it's all about people. It's all about making sort of life easier, making it more productive. How do we work together? How can you and I work together? How can we work together? How do I communicate? The world is changing really fast and rather dramatically. By July of this year, world population is going to be around about 7.6 billion people. Of that, about 2.5 billion will be Gen Z, and about 2.5 will be millennials. And so here you got like 5 billion people in the world that literally grew up in a digital age, grew up on a device, grew up wirelessly, grew up on glass. And as I say, it grew up in the world of now. Who has kids in the room? Yeah, and if they ask you a question, how soon do they want the answer? They want to know like right now, right? They want to, it's not just about their personal lives, it's in their professional lives too. They want instantaneous gratification. And that instantaneous gratification is in multiple folds. It's like, I need to be able to connect to Feargall now. I don't care where he is. I need to connect with him now because I've got a question for him and I want the answer now. And if I can't connect to him and get the answer now, then that's a problem, and I'm stuck in the muck. So you've got this big change going on. Like I look at my own kids, and I know that that's not a true sort of test case for the universe, but I think that they're great kids, obviously because they're mine, but they also are sort of similar to I think everybody else in the one of them is living in Zurich, working for Palantir, working on the Credit Suisse account, working in Warsaw 3 days a week, London 1 day a week, and he says like when I'm working with Palantir guys, it's awesome, Harry. Why? Dad, what? Harry, Dad. Why? Because he says like I'm running on Zoom and it's great, and I can get into contact with my colleagues literally all over the world at a moment's notice. I don't have to sort of schedule things, so it's instantaneous. He said when I'm working with my client, it's different because they're not on Zoom, and I always add yet. So that's and then when you sort of on top of all of that, you also have to look at sort of like the technology space. So Eric, started 8 years ago, right? Look at the advances that we've had in technology, sort of just over the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, the capabilities that we have today are absolutely astonishing. You think about sort of what they're doing in Britain. In Britain, they have drones. I don't know if anybody watched this. They have drones that go out looking for potholes. Pretty cool, right? And then when they find the pothole, they send a message to another drone that comes out and patches the pothole. And I say, well, that would be amazing. Can you imagine what it would be like in New York if they ever did that? The traffic jams would be like after a rocket nation. But I mean, that's pretty fantastic technology, right? You look at, sort of what Elon has done to the automotive industry, which is pretty fantastic. You look at the medical capabilities that we have today and how organizations have taken technology and embedded it into medical devices. I was watching a video yesterday about how so instead of having patients come in and see the doctor, they're now doing diagnosis on a remote basis, which is actually pretty cool. And then writing the prescription on a remote basis. So so people don't have to. One of our clients is in the cancer, sort of in cancer treatment, and so what they want to do is rather than have the cancer patient come all the way to the office for sort of 45 minutes to the office and do a checkup, and then 45 minutes home doing a remote checkup, and if necessary, then schedule somebody to come into the office. So it's life changing from that perspective.
There's definitely some. The cool thing about working in your space is that there's some massive macro benefits, right? I mean, you talk about people's carbon footprints and offsetting that by not traveling as much. I mean, do you practically see that when you talk to clients that they're really taking advantage of that?
So we have some clients. I mean, it's very hard to measure that. And I remember that earlier in my career. It's like, we're going to be more efficient. Well, so we're going to be 20% more efficient. Well, that's great. You've got a 1,000-person organization. 20% more efficient means, sort of you're going to lay off 100 people? No. 200 people? No. You're not going to lay them off. It's kind, but so it's very hard to actually measure carbon footprint efficiency. Some companies have measured that they are spending less on travel, and so we'll take attribution for that, right? But it's very hard to actually measure that.
Well, I wanted to ask you one thing which you're personally involved in is Empower.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, because that's a real impact on the diversity side?
Yeah, and I want to come back to where the market's going because I didn't finish that.
Okay.
But do you want me to do that first or second?
Yeah, whatever works.
Okay. So, I mean, like when you again going back to where technology sort of is and going, it's like look at artificial intelligence. It's not about the technology. It's about the impact that AI can have on people, augmenting people, making people more efficient, making them more productive. You look at something that we just introduced on Monday, real-time digital transcription. So when I'm talking, I talk a little slower than what I typically talk, but when you're talking, it does the digital transcription in real time, and you can actually create a panel of that real-time transcription when you're talking. So if somebody was late to the meeting, they can actually read what happened when they, so we're that 5 or 10 minutes late. So that's pretty cool stuff. You look at things like virtual backgrounds to sort of take out the video noise. You look at, when you are having a meeting with people, you can hover over their names and see their LinkedIn connector and sort of get their profile on them. So all this is just, sort of as we go down this journey, we're just going to see more and more of this capability.
And you announced a couple of weeks back Zoom Cloud as well,
Yes,
which is all seems to be about PBX on the cloud. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's PBX in the cloud, and very exciting. Driven principally from two perspectives. One sort of completes the circle of communications, right? So so having a video communications platform without audio would be kind of interesting. See a lot of movement, but not hear a lot. So our clients, so one was because we wanted to complete that cycle, that circle, so that from a completion of the vision perspective, and the second was driven by our clients because our clients love our platform. I mean, they really do love it. It's quite amazing. So they said, look, what you have done to video communications, can you do that to phone? So here we are. And so now you have that sort of multimodal capability, right? We can start with a phone call, we can elevate it into video, you can start with chat, elevate it into audio, elevate it into video. Take the example of sort of when someone calls you, you're in the car, and and so now you're having an audio call, and you want to bring somebody else into the picture. No pun intended. You want to bring somebody else into the call, doing a three-way calling. We've been doing that for 50 years, right? So three-way calling isn't like anything new. But if you want to raise that into audio, because now I want to see you, because I really want to sort of have a complete immersion conversation with you, and then and then you start content sharing. Meanwhile, the person who called from the car still, didn't have to disconnect, didn't have to drop out, didn't have to dial in a different number or click on a link or anything. They just stayed connected, hear the whole dialogue, and then it's all over. So
it's far easier for you guys to do that, being native to the cloud, than the Cisco's or Avayas and the Nortels of this world.
Yeah, it's because we took white sheet of paper building this platform. There was no legacy. There was no sort of incumbent business. So we were able to do everything, quote, right the first time. And again, sort of Eric, brilliant man, domain knowledge, sort of off the charts. So he knows everything he got right with WebEx, and he knows everything he got wrong with WebEx. So it's like the guys at Workday, right? It's like, sort of when you get the second time, when you get a second chance to do something, you do it better than the first time. So yeah, it's very cool. So you want to go to Empower?
Yeah, go tell us about Empower.
So anybody in the room familiar with Empower? No. Okay. So Empower is an organization established about 12 years ago now, and it's a not-for-profit. What they do is they help young adults who haven't had any of the privileges that we've had. They also help veterans get back into the workforce from their assignments overseas. So it's a very cool organization. The young adults are typical sort of 16, 17, 18-year-olds who have come from distressed homes, who had to drop out of school because they had to go pump gas, work in a supermarket to earn a few dollars to help parents pay the rent. So what Empower is all about is sort of enrolling these young adults in their programs. They have New York and Jersey and St. Louis and Dallas and San Francisco. So a bunch of cities around the country where they bring in these young adults and teach them technology skills, particularly around things like service management, our cyber security, and recently I think we're starting in the CRM space. They get 90 days of training. They get sort of, the way I characterize it is they get taught how to walk, how to talk, how to dress, and the technology skills. And then they help them get jobs in great organizations. We used to hire them at Blackstone and KPMG, but JP Morgan's a huge subscriber, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America. It's all the financial services firms, and a lot of the non-financial services firms are big sponsors of Empower. And I've been a big fan of this program for years. I think that it's, I fundamentally believe that it's incumbent upon successful people to give back and help those people who've been less fortunate. I think that's sort of I just believe that. I think that it's important for your children to see that. I think it's important for your colleagues to see that at work. And I think it's just an amazing personal experience to give back like that. Been a big fan of them, and then we've formed a partnership with Zoom, with Empower. So they now have licenses to use Zoom across their corporate organization, and lights went out. I guess everybody saw that. Okay. And the purpose behind Zoom working with Empower is when their graduating classes go out, is how do you keep those graduating classes? How do you keep that alumni engaged? And they just built their new offices now down at Dumbo. Anybody know what Dumbo stands for?
Yes.
You didn't know what Empower was. So it's like, you know what Dumbo. So they have their new offices down at Dumbo, and that should be opening in a few weeks. And then we're going to start doing like a quarterly technology webinar for their alumni. So this is like so fun.
Okay. Tell us, just going back to your earlier years. So grew up in Dublin, went to Trinity. Maybe tell us a little bit about,
I can't tell you too much about growing up in Dublin.
You can remember.
Who grew up in Dublin besides me? A few people, yeah. So yeah, I grew up in Dublin. Very proud of that. And so let's see, going back, I think I was about 12. Yeah, I was about 12. And my father had a bedding factory. He used to make beds. And there's a whole story behind the whole bed making business, but I'll spare you all the gory details. He had a bedding factory on the Lower Kimmage Road. Anybody know where the Lower Kimmage Road is? Yeah, exactly.
I can Terran Euro just down the road.
Ah, okay. Well, I lower down the road. That's why that's fun. So yeah, around the corner. Right. So anyway, so he had his factory. Do you know the Maxwell station down there? Okay. Next door to the Maxwell station, that was my father's factory. The big barn.
But they actually do furniture as well, don't they?
Well, yeah. So that whole place was my father's factory, and so when I was 12, it burned to the ground. Yeah, so that was really a bad day. Bad night and then a bad day. The day got worse because so I was 12. I was with my father, and we were walking through the factory, or what remained of the factory, and there was a girder hanging from the second floor, and it was like blowing in the wind. And so my father said to me, "Why don't you stand over here?" And he went over to wiggle the metal girder so that the metal fatigue would break in, right? Because he didn't want it blowing in the wind, so it would like fall on somebody. It was a good idea, but at least we all thought it was a good idea. And then the metal came crashing down, as one would expect, and my father was still holding the girder, and the girder bounced up out of his hand and came down and sliced off his 2 fingers. Yeah. And I was standing right there. Yeah, so I screamed rather loudly, and so one of the truck drivers ran over and said, "You know, what happened?" And it's like my father's lying on the ground, screaming. The fingers are lying there. I mean, it was gory. It was just gory. The reason I don't like horror movies, I think. So Jimmy literally picked up the fingers and put it into his pocket and grabbed my father and threw him over his shoulder and yelled to me to go in and tell one of the girls to call the pub. And I was thinking, great time for a pint. Call the pub and have someone run out with a bucket of ice. And then call the Terranure police station and have them tell them that Jack Moseley I'm driving him back to the hospital in his car, and can we get an escort? And they should meet us on the road to the hospital. So he literally threw my father into the car, and I jumped into the back seat, and we drove down. Girl ran out with a bucket of ice. Jimmy gave me the fingers and stuck them into the ice. God, all the blood everywhere. It's horrible. A couple of police bikes joined us, and we were raced down to the hospital. Raced in, and the gurney was there, and a 5-hour operation, and stitched them back on. Yeah, it was incredible. So he was in hospital for about 10 days recovering from that. Today you'd probably be like, it's an outpatient operation. It was June. I was off school. This story is going somewhere.
Okay.
I was off school, and my father was in hospital, and there was no phone because we had a fire. So literally at 7 o'clock in the morning, I get on my bike. We lived up on Fort Field Road at the time, and I get on my bike. I'd ride down to the Mead Hospital. I'd have breakfast with my dad. He'd tell me all the things that had to happen. I'd ride back up to the site. I would talk to all the staff and the employees and calling insurance companies and all sorts of stuff. And then at lunchtime, I'd have lunch with my dad, and then I'd ride back. And then I'd ride back in the evening, and then I'd go home for dinner. For like a week and a half. And that was an amazing experience. That was just amazing. Yeah.
So did you have a clear idea after that? What I would have thought you wanted to be a doctor. I thought that was.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sure. No, doctor wasn't part of it. So I always wanted to be an engineer, and I wanted to be, sort of put up buildings, and studied at Trinity College, and as Sean Kelly, a good friend of mine from KPMG. This is a funny story. I love this. So it's like, when I was being interviewed by KPMG, the first person I met was this guy, Sean Kelly. So, obviously he checked me out and I checked him out, right? It's like when you interview someone, you got to know everything about them. And it's easy these days. So I walk into the room. And Sean Kelly, it's hard to tell that he was standing up. He would say that too. He's by the side. He's like a midget. He's just very short. So he looks at me and he goes, "Hi, Sean Kelly." And I go, "Hi, Harry Mosely." And so you went to TCD? And I go, "I did." And he goes, "That's because you couldn't get into UCD." So I thought, all right, I don't know how this is going to go. So I look at him and I go, "And you went to UCD?" And he goes, that I did. And that's because you couldn't get into TCD. And so we did a high five, and that was the beginning of our great relationship. But yeah, I went to Trinity, studied engineering, computer science, and mathematics. Graduated 1977. Went to work for the British Steel Corporation in Maryport, England, on the Irish Sea. That was horrible.
There's the tie to the fingers, the steel.
Yeah, I never thought about that before. Spent 6 months there. Then I went to work for an engineering company in a place called Colchester, sort of on the east of London, about 60 miles outside London, principally to sort of program their computer system for engineering designs of buildings. And I thought that would be like really fun. Gave up engineering ultimately, and it's ironic why I gave it up. So in those days, you didn't have CAD/CAM systems, and when you were any engineers in the room? Reinforced concrete. You remember anybody know how to? It's like when you did today when you reinforced concrete, it's like my daughter does it in Snap with CAD/CAM, right? Back in those days, reinforced concrete, you had to draw the concrete, you had to draw all the steel, you had to do the steel inventory. It was all very manual. One day, this architect walks in for this building I had just sort of completed and moved the air conditioning equipment from one side of the room to the other side of the room, moved the door, and moved where the concrete staircase was. So I go, how long did it take you to make those changes? A couple of minutes. It's going to take me 72 hours to redo the concrete and the steel. And so I finished that project and I quit. And fell back on my computer science and math degrees I went to, and that's kind of why I started.
Did you go straight into banking then, or?
Yeah. I started working for a software company in London that was focused on real-time banking, which was 1978. Which was, I heard a while there. Yeah, that was like, we were way ahead of the time. So that we had trade entry, real-time risk, real-time exposures, real-time limits, real-time accounting, which in 1978 was like, it was a proprietary language, proprietary operating system. It was very, very cool. I came here in '79, July 9th, 1979. That's where my math breaks down, because it's like I always do things by numbers. So it was 1979. It was July was the 7th month on the 9th day. So it's like that's how I remember all this shit. Sorry.
And how did you progress? How did you ultimately get to the top jobs in technology?
Yeah, sure. It's like, I fundamentally believe it's like you put your head down and do the best job you can, right? And that's it. It's like, a lot of people, I say it's not hard, a lot of people say it's hard. It's not hard. It's like, the number one thing is to work your way out of a job. It's like make yourself redundant. That's one. Two is, you've always got to, you're never going to be promoted to the next job, so to speak, unless there's somebody who is going to be a good successor to take over from you. So it's incumbent upon you to sort of make sure that you have somebody on your team that can sort of fill your shoes. Otherwise, it's very hard to take a break as well, take a vacation or something. So it's good to have like that number two, so that you can be moved on and then they can take over. Just do the right thing. It's like I'm a big believer in like doing the right thing, taking a risk.
What about? Obviously, when I
never asked for a job in my life, by the way.
Okay.
So that's something else. Never asked for a promotion. Never pushed for a promotion. They just came. Was never headhunted out of a job for another job. Which is really interesting. It's like lots of people say, hey, it's like you should never quit your job before you have a job. I don't know. It's like I've interviewed lots of people who had jobs, and I always feel like I don't know. It's like I just feel like it's like just the wrong thing. It's like I'm not being loyal. It's like if I work for you, Feargall, and I'm like interviewing over here, it's kind of like that's I did it once in my life and was offered the job and declined it, not because of anything other than I just felt guilty about it, like leaving where I was.
What about troughs and dealing with, like, I suppose, when I relay your your career history. It looks like this great trajectory, but everyone has challenges along the way. Any,
Oh, there are lots of
sort
challenges.
advice on
Full of them.
politics and other things?
Yeah, I'm not very good in the political space. I just find that politics sort of slow everything down and sort of get in the way of progress. And I'd rather just be pragmatical and practical about it. So politics, I don't have a lot of time for politics, quite honestly. Yeah.
What about your kids, right? I mean, did you give them advice on what to do? I mean, one of them's obviously working with Palantir, which is a big data company, but any guidance, like in terms of your wisdom from your years in the technology space?
I can impart wisdom. It's like, are they going to listen to me? It's like, what, did I listen to my parents? No. Did you listen to yours?
He was an architect, and he told me they were the last people paid. So,
And that's absolutely right. And he was right, and that's still the same.
Absolutely.
Because I have one. And so my daughter's an architect, and I got to share this because it's like, this is fun. She's an architect in Baltimore, and her company focuses exclusively on educational institutions, and literally all around the world. She actually led the architecture team for the American University of Bahrain, 45 architects, and the kid was, I suppose I shouldn't call her a kid, but she was doing that when she was like 29, which is pretty, that's a pretty big responsibility. She goes there now once a month for a week, and the first time she was there on the construction site, she said it took her 2.5 hours to walk the construction site. I mean, it's just massive. I can put up photos. I could share them on my phone with a virtual background, but I won't do that now. It's pretty amazing. The irony of the whole situation, of course, is that she is an architect, and I gave up engineering because of architect. And so my daughter is an architect, and my younger son is studying at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, California. What's he studying?
Engineer.
Try again. Architecture. Yeah. So I got two architects in the family. But the funniest story about Michelle, that's my daughter, obviously. Well, maybe not. I haven't even had a beer yet. So the funny story about Michelle. So I'm at home one day, and Michelle, I don't know, she was probably like about 25, 26. So she's been, sort of doing architecture now for a few years. And she does one of these things where she looks at me, and she goes, "You have no idea how I get compensated, do you?" And it's one of these sort of like very special moments. Like, I don't know what's behind this conversation at all. And so I go, "No." So she said, this is one of the days when I was at Blackstone, right? And you know what those guys are like. So she says, "It's not about money for me." And I said, "Okay, I'm listening." She said, "You have no idea what I do you?" And I'm like, "Well, you design buildings." She said, "But you have no idea what I do and what I experience." So I said, "Tell me." So she said, "Okay, so here, I'm going to paint the picture for you. So you're sitting in your office, and one of the partners walks down and says, okay, we just got invited to a university to make recommendations about a lecture building, or an administration building, or a dormitory. So that invitation goes out to like 12 firms. And so you start with like doing hand sketches, and then you submit the hand sketches. That gets whittled down to 3 architects. And then you have to start doing line drawings, which are a little bit more accurate. And then you finally get awarded the architectural contract to design a administration building, a dormitory, or a lecture hall, theater. And then you go through all that, and you're doing all the electrical, you're doing the media, you're doing the colors, you're doing the bathrooms, you're doing all the elements of it, and it's all drawings. And then you start doing the engineering drawings. And then when all that's complete and that's all signed off, then you put the job out to bid to contractors. And so you put it out to 3 contractors. Typically, you get all the bids in. You have to like see what did they include, what didn't they include. Then you start negotiations. The university gets involved, and then you award the contract to one of the GCs. Then the fun starts. Then let's imagine it's a big field. Then the bulldozers come in. They start digging out the foundation. Or it's an old building, so you got to demolish it. And then they put in the foundations, they put up the superstructure, the roof goes on, they start filling it out, they put in the bathrooms, they do the tiling, painting, electrical, media, furniture. And then one day, the building opens. And now all these students are getting educated, they're living in a building that I designed, or they're being administered to have a university education. And that goes on year over year over year. So I feel I am responsible for educating thousands of young adults. That's how I get paid. And I thought, wow, that's deep. And so I'll end on that note. So it's like it's pretty cool. Pretty cool, yes.
If I can, just tell me a little bit about the role of the CIO and how that's changing, right? I mean, you're doing Zoom Voice, so you're putting this, a lot of infrastructure that would have sat in your domain at Credit Suisse or UBS has now gone to the cloud. Does that mean that there's sort of less power with the role of the CIO, or that the CIO is better positioned on the vendor side these days?
Yeah, so first of all, at Zoom, we have nothing on-prem. We have 0 on-prem. Everything we do is in the cloud. So I love that. It's like it's awesome. As opposed to my days at sort of KPMG back somewhere. So I think the role of the CIO as not just the CIO, but the role of technologists has changed dramatically over the last few years and is continuing again to change. So it's I'll go back to 2000. I think it was about 2016. I was visiting with the University of Washington in St. Louis, and I was meeting with the dean of their science and engineering school, and we were talking about a variety of topics. And so one of the things that he shared with me was that many of the students, year over year, irrespective of their major, are taking more computer science and technology classes than ever before. And so I started thinking about what would cause them to do that? And it's because technology these days is technology is at the center of everything that we're doing. I look at my eldest son's girlfriend. She's a bioengineer, but she's taking massive amounts of data that's publicly available that comes from studies that the company that she works for have done. And what's she doing with this data? She's visualizing this data to sort of see the patterns of the data, to sort of get the insights out of this data. She couldn't do this if she didn't have those technology skills. So she understands the bio of tomato plants or whatever she was studying at the time, but she couldn't do the data analysis. And so the role of the technologist these days is less about realizing the systems. It's more about putting the platforms in place that that people who are becoming more and more year over year more technically literate than ever before. They want to be able to take components and put the components together on a platform and have it realized. And sometimes you spin these things up, you use them for a while, and then you spin them down. It's never been a more exciting time. I feel like to be in technology. You're in the startup world, so you see this day over day, right? It's just phenomenal the things that we can do. As I was saying yesterday, who would have imagined a year ago that you could get on a plane by facial recognition? Come on, right? That's pretty staggering. You go rent a car these days. You get in the car, you hit the start button, you drive out, you look at the camera, and off you go. They're not even like checking any IDs anymore. They don't need to. It's like I think that's pretty amazing. But who would have imagined that? So it's hard to imagine what the future is going to be like.
What do you see? Obviously you talk to a lot of CIOs in your job when you're sort of on the sales side of your role. But what do you see as the key issues amongst CIOs right now?
Yeah. So look, there isn't a CIO in the world that doesn't worry about security. I was talking to a person here earlier about security. Security is probably the biggest worry of any leader in technology at any point in time. It's like, the bad guys are getting worse, put up higher walls, they get higher ladders, they find ways to dig under the walls. I shouldn't use the walls. But it's a notion that so you can put a perimeter around your around your data. That doesn't work anymore. Encryption alone doesn't work anymore. The biggest threat from a security perspective is besides the bad guys is the insider. They're all good people. They just do innocent things. It's like who remembers the ransomware events? Was that 2017 or 2016? I can't remember. It's like and the hospitals in the UK, everything went black, right? People died. That was awful. I mean, like, who are these criminals? If we could find them, they should be incarcerated for the rest of their lives, in my opinion. But that's why I'm not running for government. I shouldn't even get a trial. But anyway, so security is really top of mind. I think budget, cost is still top of mind for CIOs, and productivity. I think I was at an event yesterday evening just here in Times Square, listening to people talk from 3 firms, 3 investment banks, and they were talking about how technology is enabling their people to actually do more and spend more time with clients as opposed to I always remember, my days at Blackstone as an example. Analysts should be analyzing. Analysts shouldn't be collecting data to analyze. It's like the machines should be collecting the data. So that was then. The machines today can collect the data. The machines can now analyze the data. The machines can even create insights into the data. So what do we want the people to do? We want the people to take those insights then and share it with their clients. So this enables professionals to actually spend a lot more time with clients, which is just a better thing to do, right? Yeah.
Tell me, you've obviously moved to the vendor side. For years, you've been sold to, right, by lots of vendors.
Yes,
So what's it like
I know all the tricks.
Exactly. What's it like being on the other side?
I know when people are pulling the wool over my eyes. So no, it's fun. I get to engage with a lot of smart people, I know it's like we had a meeting at headquarters last week. Very large client came in with a whole host of colleagues, and everybody's introducing themselves, right? So you got Eric Yuan, he's he's got a pretty good pedigree and background, but then you got head of sales, head of marketing, head of professional services. They're all interesting people. Then I introduced myself, and this guy, you could see it's people wanted to engage with Eric and with Harry. So I'm not trying to boost my own ego here, but it's they were a financial services firm, so it's they were interested in talking to Eric because of his background, his experience, and what he built from a company and a culture perspective, and they wanted to engage with me because of my background in financial services.
Right.
And so I enjoy that a lot, and I kind of know where their pain points are. Being on, Rich is my colleague over here. Rich is on the sales side, and he does a terrific job. And Rich knows what it's like when he's with me in a meeting with somebody else, even when it's not financial services, right? It's like it just resonates, and because I know what they're looking for, I know what their pain points are going to be, and I know how they think, and I know what they respond. So I do sales kickoffs for Zoom, and I've actually been invited to do sales kickoffs by not our competition. That wouldn't work very well. but I've been invited to do sales kickoffs for other technology companies because of my background and experience. And it's like, a CIO, a CTO, somebody who's running a technology organization, what don't they have? They don't have a lot of time. It's like Monday morning, what do I do for the first 30 minutes? I'm, sort of identifying all the emails in my inbox that have been robo-generated in the last 30 seconds from sales systems. And it's like, I don't even read them. It's like I just go through picking them all out and I delete. And my inbox goes ka-ching, like that. Those emails are so annoying. And, and so I talk to our sales people all the time about this. It's like, if you want to get the attention of a senior person, it's got to be short. It's got to be succinct. It's got to be on point, and that's it. It's like, because that will get attention.
And what about just, let's say with Cloud KPI as an example, right? As a CIO, did you take the risk of working with earlier stage firms, or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You think people have to have a sort of almost like a portfolio approach to technology?
Yeah, I think that if you don't take a risk, then you're basically going to run yourself into the ground. You've got to. You've got to take a measured risk. I mean, I remember. Anybody understand what hierarchical storage is? Okay, got one.
Yes.
Well, okay. So very briefly, hierarchical storage. So storage. Anybody ever delete anything besides sales emails? Yeah. I mean, well, you do. You're unique. Oh, no, was that a no or is it?
I have deleted many files by mistake.
Oh, by mistake. How many people take photos on their phone? How many people delete photos on their phone? Oh my God! Wow, that's a lot more than I would have thought. But we're data hogs, right? We love stuff. It's like we get stuff, we keep it forever, and we just keep more and more. My attic is full of the junk. I've got terabytes of storage in my home because we keep everything forever. In firms, storage, they keep storage. Like if you're a regulated industry, you got to keep stuff for like 7 years. That's a lot of stuff, and every year it's more than the year before. And then, if you have a legal situation, you can't even delete it then. So it's like, you can have stuff that goes back 10, 12, 15 years. So storage is really expensive, and accessing storage can be really expensive. And so you have this hierarchical storage. The older the documents get, and the less frequently they're used, it goes down to sort of less expensive storage that spins slower and takes a while to retrieve. But it does come back eventually. And so I remember when we put this in, I wasn't going to move my entire storage estate to this new hierarchical storage startup, but we took a piece and we tried it out, and then we sort of just slowly over time migrated to it, and it worked awesome. It was amazing. Then you have like things like software-defined network and software-defined data centers and things like that. So you try it, and I think it's important to try things and figure out what works and what doesn't work.
Okay, great. You did say time is constrained as a CIO. We'll call it. We'll stop it there. But thank you so much for your time, Harry. Maybe we can have a round of applause for Harry. Maybe you can stick around for a couple of minutes. I know you're going to Hawaii tomorrow, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but we're going to have just two Irish companies speak quickly.
Yeah.
It's going to be like 5 minutes each.
Thank you all.
Actually, maybe before you sit down, has anyone got any questions for Harry?
Yeah.
May I ask, Harry, if you look out 5 to 7 years in the future, tell us some of the funky stuff that Zoom will be able to do that we can only dream of at the moment?
I'd love to tell you all the things we're working on. Not happening, sorry. Even under NDA, we're very careful about what we share for a variety of reasons. Number one being competitive.
Permit me to rephrase the question. What will the market expect 5 to 7 years out in terms of capability?
Yeah, I think that it's from an audio-video communications and collaboration product portfolio. I think you're just going to see more of the. I think we're going to see more predictive analytics, more proactive analytics.
That was the right answer.
That's okay. You're going to see a lot more of the predictive and proactive analytics, so which will sort of take a lot of the legwork out of things. I've long believed sort of getting the right data to the right person on the right device at the right time. It's like I remember at in one of my firms, I don't want to name which one, but we created a mobile application. We were pretty early in this space. Created a mobile application such that it knew where I was and it knew what accounts I covered. So if I was walking into a particular client, it knew I was at the client. It knew I covered the client. It would go and check to see, well, what was the net new news on the client. And if I'm walking in to meet with the CFO, realize that their stock just fell 10%, it's better I know that before I walk into the room with the CFO than sort of when I get into the room and it's like, and he's like, oh, this stuff is kind of like, I'd like to know that why, if they announce some merger or some acquisition or some transaction or something about their industry or something about their competitor, getting the right information to the right person on the right device at the right time. That's all about predictive analytics and being proactive and pushing content to you. I mean, like the whole notion of sort of having to go and get content and get material and do analysis before I have a meeting with a client is so analog in my mind that we should not have to do that. Right? We shouldn't have to do it today, and I don't expect that we will be doing it tomorrow.
Maybe one more question. Anyone? Amber, go.
I want to know how it applies to the public sector.
How does it apply to the public
We
sector?
couldn't use your technology, for example, in the Department of Foreign Affairs, which have very restricted ability to take in new technology.
Why?
But what, they say security.
No, that's
Like
not
we
true.
can't use Google, we can't use a lot of Google
You
Mail.
absolutely can.
Yeah.
If it's good enough for the
It's not committed to use a lot of these sharing platforms, shall we say? So
well, we should talk. I'm happy to take it on. You have to introduce me to the right person. I'll change it for you.
Where I'm going with this is that a lot of this technology that you're talking about is in use at the moment in the private sector, but I don't see it being used in the public sector for various reasons, including what you're describing where
Okay.
you're going.
So I'm going to give you an example.
Yeah.
A friend of mine lives in Miami. Has a very nice boat in Miami. Typically takes his boat out and goes to places like the Bahamas or one of the islands. And then when he's coming back in, he comes back in on his boat and he crosses the U.S. border, obviously, right? On the water, at sea. And he connects with Border Patrol from his boat. And they provide images of the people on the boat and their passports. And they get admitted or not admitted. And they do all that using Zoom. At the Border Patrol with Canada, they're using our technology to admit people across the border at Border Patrol on the U.S. side, using our technology. The U.S. government is using Zoom. So I'm quite happy to sort of connect with you or your colleagues about sort of using this type of technology, especially.
I'm just wondering the applications
It's like you can't if you want to Oracle as an example, which is a great company, they do sell their on-prem suite, but their cloud applications, the functionality that they have in the cloud doesn't exist on-prem anymore. And soon companies won't be selling on-prem software anymore. So it's either people are going to have to change their mind about this. It's actually safer and more secure at the end of the day.
You can start like the other bikers were doing and just expense it yourself. Start.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I'll just add a comment. We've been singing your praises for years because as market researchers, I don't have to talk to people in France or Singapore or anywhere around the world in a focus group facility or lab. I can just ring them directly on Zoom, record the conversation, and now I can transcribe the conversation. So that's a real world consumer application that we use all the time.
Great, thank you for your business. Appreciate it.
All right, Harry Mosely, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go go through these pitches fairly quick. We've got Philip, he's already been at an event tonight, actually. So it's only 4 hours time difference at the moment, so it's still late enough. But Philip, I'll give the quick intro that Peter Coppinger, the CEO of Teamwork, spoke at our event about 3 years ago. Teamwork is far from a startup. They're one of the most successful indigenous software companies in Ireland, with over 250 people in Cork. And I'll let Philip speak from here. Okay, can we hear you? Philip, can you speak?
It's a joint audience.
Oh, where are we? Here we go.
Yeah. We have tech support right here.
No pressure. No pressure.
Okay, Philip, you good?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Turn the volume up.
Thanks. I think you hear me probably if I go.
Yeah, we're just gonna.
Yeah, excellent. So, hi everyone. On behalf of Teamwork and our founders, Peter and Dan, I know.
Philip, just give me 1 second. Can you give me 1
Yeah,
second? This is my personal Zoom account, so I do recruiting and I do use this for interviewing all the time. So, Zoom audio preferences, right? Okay, can you try it now?
Yeah.
All right, speak away. All right, off you go.
Perfect. Hi everyone, and on behalf of Teamwork and our founders, Peter and Dan, many thanks for having us tonight. Unfortunately, yeah, I missed a bit of the talk from Harry, but I think it was beautiful. And I'm delighted that we got the opportunity with Feargall to pitch side by side, kind of with, I guess, one of the best communications platforms out there. Zoom. So we've been using Zoom for ages, and yeah, I guess it's the most robust product we've found so far. My name is Philip Mosely. I am leading the global operations for Teamwork. I'm not Irish, I'm German, and I already got all the jokes, don't worry. They're sending a joke and we must be serious. I got all that in the past, so just over that. I can't see everyone in the crowd, but whoever hasn't heard of Teamwork and what we do, just raise your hand quickly. Do you know who we are, Teamwork, and what we do?
I think that's a no.
Give us a quick rundown.
Oh, well, yeah. Let me give you a brief introduction to the story about our beautiful company. So, the idea for Teamwork sparked when our founders, Peter and Dan, tried to organize their web agency a bit better. So, back in 2007, they were pretty disappointed with the software that was currently out there, managed projects. And they've been building apps for years for their customers. So they told themselves, all right, look, we can do much better than what's on the market right now. So with the most terrible marketing and probably domain name as well, they launched teamworkpm.net to the web in October 2007. But by listening to their customers fanatically and delivering features almost overnight, they were able to grow enough revenue to hand over their agency business and focus on Teamwork, the software SaaS business solely. So the real turning point for the company came in 2013 though, when we acquired the domain name teamwork.com for roughly around $675,000. That gave us real credibility in the market and also a beautiful platform to build on. Today, what we look like now, we've got over 22,000 customers in almost every country in the world, 7 offices with headquarters still in Cork, Ireland, roughly 240 staff, while still remaining self-funded. We exist to make teams around the world more efficient, organized, and happy. And that's pretty much summarized in our new brand slogan, working together beautifully. And trust me, believe it or not, it took us over 6 months to figure out those 3 words what we're standing for. And we just launched our brand about 2 weeks ago. We currently have 3 products in the suite. So Teamwork Projects, our flagship product, project management software, Teamwork Desk, help desk software, and Teamwork Chat, a chat software for teams. Typically, we'd be selling into medium and large enterprises located in North America, so the US and Canada, in the following industries. So it's professional services, agencies, and marketing or advertising, education, technology, health, and medical. 2019 is a really big year for us. We've just launched new brands, so if you see on our old website, it was kind of outdated. So we had a big revamp to represent what we stand for, a suite of products to manage your entire business. And we're gonna add 2 new products very soon. So stay tuned for our next launch on next week, Tuesday, at 3 p.m. Irish time. With a new product, and then a month later, we're going to launch a big product to complement our suite. I'm personally particularly excited about the US. I've just got a couple of visa problems that should be resolved soon within the next 2 weeks. And then moving over to Boston. But what we're going to focus on in 2019 in the US is mainly expanding our team over there in enterprise customer success. So we want to make sure every one of our enterprise customers along the East Coast at least is extremely happy. And we're going to start with boots on the ground in sales as well. So we're hiring our first field sales rep in the US as well. That gives us the opportunity to really upsell and cross-sell our suite of products to existing customers, exploit new business through referrals from existing customers and strong relationships with Enterprise Ireland and Invest North Ireland, and do a couple of events on the ground. So we'll be present in 2 events in October in Boston and Philadelphia, and we'll host 2 custom events as well. The first one in Boston probably in summer. What we are asking for from you is, so unfortunately can't be there and follow up, but here's my email address, philipdemosha@teamwork.com. What we'd be looking at is, we'd love to connect with Irish companies that have entered the US market, hit a couple of pitfalls, and the learnings that they've just gotten from their experiences. If there's any industry events you feel we should be present, or in any invitations that you can make you feel would be really, really helpful for a company like us coming into the US, we'd love to connect with you. So many thanks for having us tonight. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and I hope to see you at the next Digital Irish event.
So we'll follow up tomorrow with Philip's email address and their ask. And given that they're in the team collaboration, project management space, if you know anyone in those types of companies, that could be useful to them. Philip's moving up to Boston, right? That's where the office is going to be. But feel free to reach out to him directly. All right, thanks, Philip. We'll let you head to bed. All right, thanks.
And next up, we're going to have Maeve talk to us about Cloud KPI.
My name is Maeve Mosely, and I'm co-founder and CEO of Cloud KPI. And I'm here with my co-founder and president, Brenda Jordan.
Can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, microphone. Good point. Thank you. Can you hear me now? Hi, so I'll say it again. My name is Maeve Mosely, and I'm co-founder and CEO of Cloud KPI. And I'm here with my co-founder and president, Brenda Jordan. So, each day when you use Gmail, or you update your prospect in Salesforce, or you save a file to Dropbox, you're using one of the 55,000 software as a service solution, cloud-based software that we were talking about earlier on. And starting here in the US, where we've onboarded our first customers, Cloud KPI is an analytics solution driven by AI to really help those kinds of companies accelerate their growth. And the problem is that actually doing and formulating SaaS metrics, cross-business metrics, is actually really hard work and time-consuming. And on top of that, it's hard to interpret the data once you get your hands on it. And so what we're doing is we're looking at that problem, and I'm going to give you an example. So there's a friend of ours called Jay, right? He's the CEO of a SaaS company in San Francisco. They're doing 20 million ARR, and they're growing at 40% year on year. And so he spotted, as he's watching his MRR, his monthly recurring revenue, he could see growth was happening, steadily happening over a 6-week period. And so he looked into his CRM analytics to see, is there something in there that's telling me what's happening with my growth, what's causing the growth? He looked into his financial system to see if there's something in the financial systems that can explain the growth. And he looked into his product. And none of those systems could tell him what was causing this growth, but it was steady. And so what he had to do was consolidate that data. And the way he did that was he downloaded it into Excel. He built models within the Excel, and then they poured over that Excel to try and find the anomalies. Okay, that's not sustainable. It took him 7 days to do it, and he lost 55,000 in customer acquisitions over that period. So what Cloud KPI does is it does two things that Harry's actually talked about. First of all, it formulates those metrics by gathering the data from across the existing systems that Jay is using. It then formulates the SaaS-specific metrics around churn and customer acquisition costs and all of the things they need to know what's going on in the business. It visualizes them, and then it starts to interpret them using predictive analytics. Because you don't want your people spending 7 days trying to find out what's driving growth. You want to be able to take action, and you want to be able to replicate that opportunity. So we're a team of entrepreneurs, Brenda and I and our other founder, Hisham. We've all previously had successful businesses before. Our particular expertise is complementary but different. So my background is really around sales and marketing analytics. Brenda's really around financial and business analytics. And Hisham himself has built machine learning products and SaaS-based products. So between us all, we make a really good team. And we're doing something that nobody else is doing. So if you look at the top quadrant there on the left-hand side, what you'll see is what we call visualization builders. So solutions that allow you to build visualizations. But they're not smart and they're not intelligent. They're not built for your industry. So you have to do all the thinking and all the work in maintaining and setting them up. You've got to understand how to formulate those metrics. You've got to understand how to build them. It's too slow, it takes too long, it's too much effort. On the bottom right-hand corner, you see some businesses that are focusing in on providing solutions specifically for SaaS companies like SaaS Optics, but they all take a siloed view of data. They don't consolidate it. They can never give you the insight that you know when you know what's going across all of the different stages within your business and within your customers' activities. And we're a subscription business, so we get paid through subscription as well as servicing subscription businesses. And we are really a real startup. We started to release our product first in June of this year. We've already got paying customers. We don't have any business in Europe, it's all here. And really what we're doing now is pushing out our pipeline. We've got two routes to market that are working really effectively for us, which I'm dying to tell you, but I don't have enough time. Our ask is we need funding, so we need to really build on the traction we've already got. We also want customers, which will also help us get there. We've got a 1.5 million round now that we're closing. We've already won a competition in Connecticut against 300 other companies, which gave us $500 million investment, and now we're building our customers and also our investors to try and close out the round. So I'd love any questions, and thank you very much.
Any questions from Ed? One of your routes to market is via VCs.
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I'll speak loudly. Can you hear me? Okay, so VCs we went to because we thought they have the same problems we do because they need to get those metrics from the SaaS companies that they invest in, right? They got to know how they're growing and how they're behaving, how they're performing. But they were getting a real pain in the neck trying to get consistent metrics, right? And also the companies were spending too much time doing them. And also they weren't even consistent each month on month from the same company, right? So they might decide to kind of calculate churn slightly differently the next month. So it was happening within the companies and of course across companies. So we recently did a big conference in San Francisco, chasing after those VC firms. And ironically, we got a VC from Norway that wants to buy 16 of our licenses to work with their SaaS companies. So it's been a really good route to market for us, but also outsource CFO firms. So these early stage SaaS companies, which we target, we're doing between 4 and 40 million. They don't have time to do any of this, and some of them are outsourcing it to fractional CFO firms. So they'll use our product as well to get to the point where they're giving them advice, not digging deep into the analytics and trying to formulate.
So what's the VC doing with your product?
So the VC is going to have his portfolio companies use Cloud KPI to deliver the metrics that he wants from them every single month. Now, the license is with the customer, who is the portfolio company, but he's also solving a problem for the VC.
So the VC is licensing your product and then giving it to his portfolio.
Exactly.
And give us examples of like, the fractional CFO type of companies, just so we can.
So fractional CFO companies are now a big business. So basically, a lot of the analytics and the financial planning analytics within a company is no longer done internally. It's outsourced to these firms. So they're fairly big firms, and they're really beginning to grow rapidly. And so they might have hundreds of fractional CFOs working as an outsourced service to those companies. And they could be doing, let's say 15 SaaS companies, and each of those SaaS companies, they formulate the metrics all in Excel. There's no automation. And that takes them up to about 40 hours every single month to get the metrics right. So it's a complete waste of their time.
So I understand the data integration aspect of this, and I actually understand the AI and ML part of it. What are you doing about the data quality, right? Because now all your results are derivative by your data. So if you're, quite honestly, you're in the garbage in, garbage out business. If any one of your portfolio companies isn't accurate, or if any one of your sources isn't accurate.
We can't solve all the problems of clean data. No, we just can't. There's no point in me saying some nonsense about that. What we can do is coming a little bit later than some of the other products out there, we understand that if we can make it really easy for somebody to show us where the data is, a lot of time, about 2 years in Silicon Valley, working with companies, and it was all around the onboarding piece. So how do you tell us where the data is so that we don't have to get you to put it somewhere else? Just show us where it is. And so that's helping us, but we're not going to solve the clean data problem. It's not in there at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, it sounds pretty good. I was just wondering how it was differentiation.
I suppose, the differentiation is two things. One, that we look at things strategically across the organization, and the other one, so we get our predictive analytics right. And I think if we do that fast enough and quick enough when we get enough head of steam, well, we have something special, right? And like all businesses, you've got to try and be ahead of everybody else. And if we get that far ahead, by not trying to do it for every industry at once, it should enable us to go deeper and give something better value. Sorry?
Sorry, how do you protect that? Because there's no patents in AI.
So we are looking to see if we can patent it, because we have some ideas around how we can build those predictive models that we think is unique. So we are trying to protect them.
Great. All right. Thanks, Nate. That's it, guys. There's still food left. There's plenty of drink in the fridge back there. And we may head for a pint downstairs at the Wheel Tapper downstairs. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Rich Casson for introducing me to Howard in the first place. So thank you, Rich.